He was born in Montgomery, right?
Yes, sir.
I
Go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Noise, where we try our best to get past the overarching ideas and the fluff and all the other things that people can argue about and do nothing about, and we get right down to the bottom of it. And today's show is simply Ask a Black Dude. And if you want some real answers, I got one of the realest cats that I have ever met. My man, 69 years young, from Montgomery, Alabama, by way of San Diego, California, back to the great state of Texas. We have an activist, we have a nutrition mastermind, and a Black Panther in the house. So we're going to ask a whole bunch of questions about what is going on in today's time versus the things that he's seen, and then how they are parallel or how they relate. But before we get with my man Barnett, we have the round-faced Mexican girl in the house with us today. Grace, so how we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, Grace O's getting a little, those octaves are getting a little bit better, but we expect Grace O to be loud and aggressive today. So as we learn a little bit of Black history in this present time, I have with me, as I stated earlier, Black Panther, 69 years young, one Mr. Barnett Person. Barnett, how you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I'm trying to go backwards. I'm trying to go back to 68.
Well, you're looking good, man. You're looking good. You know, 69, I mean, I would have walked in and gave you 50 maybe. So
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I know, let me tell you a little bit about Barnett. Barnett came in, this is how humble this cat is. You know, I'm a young cat. At least I like to believe I'm a young cat. But Barnett came into PE and asked to be an intern for a cat like me because he wanted to learn about fitness and learn how he can maximize the good work that he's doing for people that he just simply knows and trying to make better on a daily basis. So today, this is what we look like. I'm going to start by saying this. I need the crowd to ask questions. Right now, people are asking, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Well, this gentleman right next to me, he's going to give you some steps on where he was and then the things that can be done now. There are a few rules to this thing. You cannot bring Candace Owens quotes. And I'm being serious. Candace Owens does not speak for me, nor does she speak for any other Black person I know. Candace Owens is an opportunist. That's what Candace Owens is. Jesse Jackson does not speak for me. Okay? Now, how you feel about Jesse Jackson is how you feel about him. And the good Reverend Al Sharpton definitely does not speak for me. In my opinion, those three, regardless of the work they've done in America, it has been proven that they are opportunists. And some of the things that they say don't really fit into the experience of things that some people I know, including myself, know. So, with those rules out there, here we go. Barnett, let's go right into it.
Yes, sir.
1967, 68, maybe 70, right? 1970, you're in California, San Diego, California, and you are a member of the Black Panther Party. You actually talked to Stokely Carmichael, or you understand the direction Stokely Carmichael was taking the party. So, who is Stokely Carmichael, sir, for the crowd?
Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, as he later became known as, was one of the most brilliant persons I ever met in my life. He was the first person that I heard coin the phrase Black Power, of course, but it also spoke to something else that I heard that he spoke to years ago when I was in San Diego at a rally where he talked about Black nationalism, which was different than what I had heard before because he was taking it more to an international level. And Stokely was one of the first persons, along with Malcolm X, that I heard took our movement to an international level, I should say. One of the most humble individuals that you could meet, even though when you may have heard him spoke, you would think, oh man, this guy is just loud. But he was one of the most humble, kindest individuals I ever met in my life.
Really?
Yes, sir.
When he spoke of Black Power, what did he mean? because I want to qualify
Yeah.
because I've always said there are two different fights going on in America, and I think some of the common people are fighting the wrong fight.
Mhm.
There's a fight for supremacy. There is a real fight for supremacy. There are the haves who want to continue to have and want you to have not. Then there's a fight for equality and justice. Some of the people screaming equality and justice are acting in supremacy, and it's hard for us to listen. So for me, when you hear Black Power, let's make sure we make it clear for people who may or may not understand, what is that message?
Well, like anything, when we say Black Power, there are some who would try to co-opt that. It means that we're anti-this or anti-white, or we just want to go around and do a lot of violence. Black Power basically means that for Black folks, that we are talking about economic power, political power, and social power. Basically gaining some control of your destiny, as opposed to being put in a position where you're always dependent on someone else for your basic human needs. It means having some say about where you want to go, what your future is going to be, how you define yourself, as opposed to having someone else define yourself.
Yes.
Define me for myself. Black Power was like I said, it was a means to awaken the Black masses at that time, which was back in 67, 68, I believe, when the term came out, was about just that, moving in a direction that we're taking control of this.
Right.
Yeah, we're taking control of this. Not going to be led by someone from downtown, someone from Washington, D.C., or you're not going to define the way that we're going to conduct ourselves.
So it wasn't based in a political outlook. It was based in self-sufficiency.
Well, self-sufficiency is a political outlook.
Oh, okay. What do you mean?
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about self-sufficiency, it means that you're taking control of your whole self-being. You're taking control of your politics, your economics, and also your social being. So all that's political.
So it's pro-self, not anti-anybody.
No, it's not anti-anybody. It's
How was it viewed by other blacks that weren't in the Black Panther Party? Because I'm gonna tell you what, I'm from South Mississippi, and everything I heard about Black Panther Party, even from Black folks, was about violence and aggression and defending themselves by any means necessary, even if you go on the offensive. So then I had to go do some research, because I think there's a lot of confusion between white people and Black people who were not a part of the party. And then you have the new Black Panther Party, and then you have the Black Lives Matter movement. Now I'm gonna say this real quick. When I say Black Lives Matter, I don't really understand all of the parts of the organization itself. But I'm speaking about the phrase as if I would speak about Black Power, just like you said. It's not Black Lives Matter, it's we matter too. We're just as interested in getting the same things that you get on the level of equality, basic human needs, and let's go after, in fairness, the same things that you go after. Because see, a lot of times I think people go, well, my life was hard and I had come up and we were poor. Yeah, many Americans came up like that. Many of us did. That's called wanting, justice and equality.
I would say
How?
Hispanics do that a lot.
What?
In relation to like what's going on, like being part of the Latino community, more specifically, being Mexican. Like I think that's one of the things that my people are really susceptible to. Oh, nobody cares about what's going on with ICE. Nobody cares about how Mexicans are treated.
We all care.
And
Yeah.
I think the sad part is it comes from like my parents' generation. They're really bad about being like saying those types of things, not really understanding like, all right, well, we can't tackle all these things at once. Like,
Right.
let's take care of one thing and then we'll worry about getting help from the view of everybody else as well.
Which that's a great point, which leads me back to what I'm saying. Why did the Black Panther Party even exist? Why did the NAACP even exist? Why does affirmative action even exist? So let's go into why did the Black Panther Party even get formed? Or what was its purpose? Or what was the catalyst that created the formation of the Black Panther Party?
Well, believe it or not, as we know history, the Black Panther Party grew out of frustration in Oakland, California, of how the police department at that time was treating the black community.
The police department?
The Oakland,
Way back in the 70s? Oh, okay.
we talking about the 60s, brother. We
What,
talking,
60 years ago? We talking about the 60s? So it's the same stuff?
yeah.
Okay, here we go.
And see, at that time, the Oakland Police Department was predominantly white. And the city of Oakland was starting to take a transition to move more from a white-based city into more of a people of color. At the time, Hispanics and blacks were starting to move into Oakland at a great number, and were starting to become the majority in some areas of Oakland. Oakland Police Department was recruiting individuals from the South, like from Arkansas and Oklahoma, to come out and become police officers in Oakland. There was a lot of police misconduct taking place that aroused some individuals, particularly Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seals, who seen a need for a change in the way the treatment of black folks, Hispanics, were being treated by the Oakland Police Department. And so the Black Panther Party of California that was the match that kind of ignited that flame of the Black Panther Party. From there, the Panthers started getting involved in other things, though. But initially, they were, okay, we're going to kind of like keep an eye on the police. Yeah. At that time, we didn't have phones with cameras and so forth.
So you start policing the police.
They started policing the police. Huey P. Newton, who was a brilliant student of law, used to quote the California Penal Code to the police when they would make a stop on, say, a citizen.
So he was giving them their rules back, and so he was fighting for justice and forcing them to step back in their action.
On the streets.
Yes.
On the streets. And at that time, it was legal, and believe it or not to Californians, it was legal to that time. Open carry was legal in California. And so the Black Panthers, they made that bold move that, hey, look, it's legal to have open carry, and so we're going to open carry, and so that, didn't sit well with the police department and others. And so
it ain't no fun when rabbit got the gun.
Basically, it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. You have some guy over here quoting the penal code that know more about the penal code.
It's fair. Yeah, now it's fair game.
Right. He know more about the penal code than I do, and I'm the one wearing the uniform. And so that's how the Black Panther Party initially started in California, basically over, like you said, patrolling the policing the police.
Now, how was it viewed? Now we know the purpose. But how was it viewed by people outside of the party, by the police, and then by the local government? What was the battle cry for them, according or against the Black Panther Party?
Right. Well, of course, the police in Oakland didn't care for it at all.
Right.
Well, I mean, which is a natural reaction.
Nobody likes consequences.
No, yeah, and so it was a natural reaction to kind of put everything out there negative. During that time, the Black Panther Party of California really wasn't that nationally known, but really wasn't really known too much outside of Oakland and San Francisco, outside of the Bay Area.
What triggered?
What triggers the national attention to the Black Panther Party when a group of Panthers decided that we're going to go to Sacramento to fight this bill that they were trying to come up with. And they came with open carry guns to the state capitol, to the state legislature. There was a bill being pushed in the state legislature at that time in California called a Munford Act. Munford was the assemblyman, I forget from what part of California. Ronald Reagan was the governor at that time. And the bill was to ban open carry for all you Second Amendment advocates out there who are all yelling about Second Amendment rights. The bill was to ban open carry. Not only for all citizens of California, we were going to ban open carry, but for Black Panthers, you would not be able to own a gun.
So they were going to try to take the gun literally out your hand.
They were going to take the gun literally out the hands
of the Black Panther Party.
Black Panther Party.
So they wanted to disarm the people who were policing the police.
They wanted to totally disarm the people. Some of you, my conservative friends, should know that the Black Panther Party was the first party to promote the Second Amendment, open carry, in the state of California, and I appreciate y'all for understanding that. But that's what brought the Panthers to the national light,
So
you have 3 questions.
Barnett?
Either
Okay.
or. All of them are from Eric Little.
Okay.
Are there any Black conservatives that you do agree with? Is the first one. And then, what do you think of the idea that libertarian and capitalist principles are better suited to help realize the reality of Black power?
I am a huge fan of capitalistic views and ideals. I am a big fan as long as it's based in fairness. Like if the rules were tough for everybody, I wouldn't have a problem with any of the game. I'm a big fan. I'm a business owner, so I like the idea of capitalism. As far as being a conservative, I have some conservative views on quite a few things. I am not a one issue guy. For example, I'll use a hard example. Abortion. I am not for abortion. However, I have no say in the matter, nor will I be an advocate on either side. Number one, that's one fight I would never have to enter. It's not fair for me to scream and yell in that manner because I don't know what those young ladies are going through or what the situation actually is. Now, again, I have a strong view of not being for it. However, I'm not going to stand on top of the table against it. I am 100% for justice and equality when it comes to people that look like me because it affects me directly. So conservative views is really based on common sense and morality, in my opinion, not extreme one issue situations. So yes, I'm a capitalistic person all the way. Barnett, go with it, bro.
First of all, conservative, do I have any friends? Do I agree with anybody who's a conservative, Black conservative?
Yeah, because early in, Greg was saying things about Al Sharpton and Jesse James. And
Jesse Jackson.
Yeah.
They're not conservative.
That's where it steps.
They are
okay?
opportunists.
I believe that's where the question stems from. That and then I think that's why they decided to ask that.
Okay.
And then the last one that they had was, do you think that gun control is originally pushed to disarm Black folks and is continued to be used to keep minorities disarmed?
Absolutely.
If so, why don't more minorities support the NRA or other Second Amendment organizations?
Because they don't like talking to us or hang up on us when they find out we're Black. It's a true story and it happened to me.
My thing about the NRA is more of a personal one. Like I said, when it came down to the Mumford Act in 1967, the NRA supported the ban of guns. They supported the ban of assault rifles, supported the ban that Black Panthers could not own guns. So for a personal reason, I have nothing to do with that organization, never. Now, I'm a gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe that the Black liberals who are going around telling us to put gun control, no. We're at war with white supremacy and racists. You have to be able to defend yourself by any means necessary. And so to put down your guns is to commit suicide. But for the NRA, I don't have nothing for that organization. I have no love for the NRA.
So you have no love for the NRA.
No love for the NRA at all.
Yeah.
No love.
I hear you on that. Let's go backwards. You were a young cat in Montgomery, Alabama in the 50s, 60s?
Oh man, the 50s, man. I
You were
was
a young cat in Mobile, Alabama,
Montgomery.
Alabama, and so you were there when Dr. King was in
Yes,
there.
sir. Yes, sir.
Let's talk about it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
we are a living witness to current history of a man who lived right up the street from Dr. King. Is that correct?
Yes, my aunt at that time lived up the street from Martin Luther King. I was a country boy.
Yeah.
So I spent most of my time during that time out in a more rural area with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
But I was always into the city of Montgomery. Shout out to Mount Meigs. Shout out to the Gump. Shout out to Tulane Court. But anyway, as a very young boy, because 1955, 56, I had to be 4 or 5 years old. And so I do recall the start of the Montgomery bus boycott. You know, I don't have...
Give a little bit of history of how that began, because a lot of people, they think it was friendly. I don't feel like getting up. And we view the civil rights movement as holding hands and hugging, and a few black people got snatched off the seats. But we need to understand that the civil rights movement was aggressively nasty. It was very violent towards people that looked like us. And it was a non-violent response by people that looked like us. But
it was a violent. It was a very violent. Yeah, you know, because now I can't recall all the, you know, what went into the Montgomery boycott, because like I said, I was like 5 years old maybe, you know, and so, but I do recall my mother, my relatives, you know, my aunts and uncles who participated in the boycott. You know, my older cousins, and so I do have a recollection of that. I do remember where Martin Luther King lived, as I used to walk past his house, you know, and so I have that, you know, that vague memory of that. And I do remember that I used to walk past Martin Luther King's house at that time. And there would be armed guards out in front of Martin Luther King house. It wasn't that black folks were just meek and mild and passive and that we're going to sit back and take an ass whipping just because. No, at that time that they were going to defend themselves and they were going to defend Reverend King. Reverend King also had an arsenal of his own. I mean, an arsenal of weapons. And as he got more and more into the nonviolent philosophy of basically the Gandhi philosophy of nonviolence, he started to get rid of his weapons personally. But the idea of protection never went away. Now you talk about, you know, some folks in Mississippi. There were armed black folks in Mississippi for self-defense back during that period of time. And in I know in Louisiana there was an organization called Deacons for Defense, which was an armed group of black men who also was armed for self-defense. As a kid, all men I knew in and around Montgomery had weapons. I'm talking about black men. You know, so it wasn't like we were just running around taking were just nonviolent to be nonviolent. Nonviolent was a tactic that Martin Luther King decided to use. But the civil rights movement definitely wasn't nonviolence, because on the opposite side you had people like Bull Connors and other Ross Barnett.
Who is Bull Connor and what was his title? That's I know the answer. That's very important to tell the public. Who was Bull Connor and what was his title?
Bull Connors was the sheriff of...
he was the what?
The sheriff of Birmingham. The county that Birmingham sits in.
Yes.
And he was probably the most racist individual at that time.
And he was a sheriff.
He was a sheriff.
So he led the law.
He led the law. He set dogs on people. He turned water holes on people.
And it was all legal.
It was all legal. All legal in his eyes. I mean, he would turn dogs on peaceful protesters. That was his idea of breaking up a protest.
So he would start the fight.
Yeah, he would initiate the fight. I mean, Bull Connor, no joke.
He was a sheriff too.
He was a
There's
sheriff.
a reason I keep saying it. Because I love it when we act like these things weren't happening. We love to go, well, what about this person? When we love comparative suffering. But you're talking about generations of black people being mistreated by the law. By the law. Right? So we're gonna move forward. We're gonna move away from Bull Connor. And you became a Panther in California.
Yes, sir.
Why did you join Black Panther?
Because I was just basically I was becoming a student of politics, becoming a student of political movements. I didn't agree with Dr. King's philosophy of turning the other cheek.
Mm-hmm.
I was more in tune with Malcolm's idea for self-determination. And so the Black Panther Party spoke to me at that time.
Mm-hmm.
As a young man in this, in 17, 18 years old, it spoke to me. It brought me something that I needed to hear at that time. So that organization fitted me more closely than the NAACP or CORE or some of those other organizations. I'm not saying anything was wrong with those organizations, but they didn't fit me.
Yeah.
Didn't fit my feelings at that time.
So the Black Panther Party was rooted in simply because the people who are supposed to protect us are harming us, we have to protect ourselves.
Yes, sir.
But it was viewed as a radical group against the American way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Matter of fact,
Definitely how it's taught at school.
yeah. Matter of fact, J. Edgar Hoover, who was the director of the FBI at that time, labeled the Black Panther Party as the most dangerous organization to the United States of America at that time.
Not the racist sheriffs.
Not the Klan.
Not the Klan.
Not the racists.
Because the Klan was made up of judges, sheriff. People don't want to hear this, and we can look it up. As a matter of fact, I went back to the Klan website.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that their belief system, listen, I do not lead with politics or religion, but I need everybody to understand where we're going. If you don't believe what I say, and if you love to call some of the things that get spoken about propaganda, just go to the KKK website and see their mission and their passion, and all of their philosophy is rooted in one book. Do you know what that book is?
The Bible?
The Bible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, continue, sir.
But J. Edgar Hoover declared that the Black Panther Party was the most dangerous threat to the United States.
Mm.
I mean, you could think of a lot of stuff that's going on at that time. The Black Panther Party, I mean, you had the Weather Underground, you had a lot of other organizations, but the Black Panther Party was labeled the most dangerous to the United States. More dangerous, like you said, than the Klan, the Nazi Party, the Weather Underground, which was a radical leftist white organization. And so that in itself, put a lot of attention to the Panthers, put a lot of resources from the government against the Panthers, put the police department on direct confrontation with the Black Panther Party, and so the Black Panther Party had to be destroyed quickly, which they did pretty well.
Why do you think that is? Because they had too many resources, too much manpower, and too much influence?
No, it was a black organization. Was talking about self-defense and community and taking care of the community and everything. See, the Black Panther Party wasn't always about just carrying guns and patrolling police. I mean, there was other programs going on more so than anything else. You had study groups going on. You also had the breakfast program for children. Some children, the only meal they got was the breakfast program provided by the Black Panther Party. There were also little health clinics set around. I'm not saying they were major health clinics where you could go in and get a surgery or anything like that, but you could go in and have some of your basic little
blood pressure check,
stuff like that. Temperature, those type of things, just basic needs. There was also a program for the elderly where the shut-ins were individuals who couldn't get out, maybe to get to do their own shopping. The Panthers would do the shopping for them, or provide them food, you know, in some type of way.
Yeah.
So it was basically an organization that was trying to do something positive for the community and letting the community know we can do something for self. But it was also an organization that said, hey, stand up for yourself and don't turn the other cheek, you know. And that was a problem.
Who funded it? How was it funded?
The Black Panther Party?
Yeah.
It was funded by, you know, dues paying members.
So,
okay. Yeah.
So it was a legitimate club. You got to pay dues.
Right.
You got to go to meetings.
Right.
Okay.
And probably the biggest funds came from the newspaper at the time. That was started being published by the Black Panther Party, which was quite widespread, you know.
Right.
And so that raised funds. You also had, you know, fundings coming from other organizations, other sources. I should say other sources, you know. So that's how it was getting funded. Now the Black Panther Party wasn't this wealthy, you know, big
conglomerate of
you know, it wasn't like, okay, most of our offices and our buildings were small storefronts in the black community, you know, right in the heart of the black community at that time. I mean, it wasn't like we was on the outskirts somewhere on Wilshire Boulevard or even on Crenshaw, you know, if you know LA. It wasn't like that. It was like, hey, this is where it is. And in San Diego, it was like right in the heart of the community, you know.
We are here. We are here with Barnett Person. Barnett is an activist. He is a black. You notice I'm not saying former. You know, he is a member of the Black Panther Party, and he is a wealth of knowledge and understanding. So let's move into today's time. Okay, you're watching these things go on TV, or you're seeing the same things you saw in the 60s and 70s by your own statements and by historical data, by officers of the law, abiding by the law, and bringing in officers in the South, recruiting them from the South to enforce the law on the West Coast, right?
Yes, sir.
So now the Black Panther Party is formed and you're a member. What kind of things did you involve yourself in? What kind of things were you assigned to as a member of the party?
Yes, I was, you know, like I did a lot of the breakfast programs. I was involved in the anti-war movement quite a bit.
Vietnam?
Vietnam, yes, sir. The Vietnam protest. Speaking on campuses, so mine's, you know, I didn't have any guns at that time, so I wasn't walking around with any guns. Matter of fact, there wasn't that many guns owned by the Black Panthers, but so it was just basically doing some recruiting, starting some student organizations, you know, that were starting around and starting to kind of bringing awareness to students in San Diego, in different San Diego high schools and different things like that, you know. So that was basically my involvement with them, you know. Yeah.
Any questions we got over there, Grace?
Yes. There's a man who would like, or Paul Robinson would like to clarify, did he hear you mention that Huey was an agent that helped orchestrate the demise of the Black Panther Party? Is that true? But
no, go ahead. Repeat the question. Did I say that?
No, did Greg?
No, not at all. No.
And then, who else? Someone chimed in, put, stop pointing the finger and engage in conversation, spread knowledge, and also seek it.
Sometimes you have to point the finger because you got to know who the target is. So I'm a big believer in see it, call it out, and let's find out how to fix it. Like, one of the biggest issues I think we have in America is the moment we say we need to fix this, we go, well, what about this? Or it wasn't me. Or what about that? So it overarches. But if I say you flatten that tire, you need to fix it, or you're going to get in trouble, that finger pointing makes sense to me anyway. Because I need to call out the culprit. So if we do point fingers, we can extract the problem. Don't fix the blame, fix the problem. But I got to know where the problem is coming from.
Well, how do we solve any type of problem?
Dick Gregory. Okay, because I didn't know if it was a typo or not. He put Dick Gregory mentioned that Huey was an agent that helped orchestrate the demise of the Black Party.
The comedian Dick Gregory?
Well, I don't remember anything about that, Dick Gregory. So I can't speak to that. You know, I can't speak to that.
I have a question though. Earlier, before we started, you talked about us, right? Not the organization.
Yeah, organization us. Yes.
And then a moment ago, you talked about how the destruction of the Black Panthers was something that was important to keeping the Black community from progressing. And you mentioned them being possibly
And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. And so this is not something I came to talk about.
Right.
You know, that was off the record.
Yeah.
And I like to keep it off the record.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's fair. So as we go, as you progress, and we look at the Black Panther Party, and it starts to lose its push. You know what I'm saying? How did it just fade out? And then what's the difference between the Black Panther Party of the 60s and 70s and the new Black Panther Party? You know what I mean?
Yeah. How did the Black Panther Party
end up just kind of
fading away?
Fading away. There can be some turmoil or whatever, and you still have little pockets of an organization. But how does that?
Well, I think it came under a great deal of attack. It came under a great deal of attack from your local law enforcement, of all areas of local law enforcement. Your justice system, your local police, the FBI, Secret Service. It was under a lot of attack.
Serious
attack. Yeah. I mean, J. Edgar Hoover had said this is the most dangerous organization.
Right. That's why I was going back.
Yeah. So I'm saying, all the forces of the United States came after the Black Panther Party.
And what was they were throwing them in jail? They was like, what was the plan of attack to where it became too difficult to mobilize?
It kept you in legal trouble. Either going to jail or fighting to get someone out of jail or paying legal fees or just straight out murder in a lot of cases. Like in the case of Fred Hampton in Chicago. Geronimo Pratt was in prison for years for a murder they say he did when everybody know. I can't say everyone, but everyone knew that Geronimo Pratt wasn't even in L.A. when the murder took place. And so, but he spent, I think, 20-some years in prison.
So 100% injustice. Like, let's just grab him because of what he's doing.
Right, because he was a member and a very viable member to the Black Panther Party. Fred Hampton was shot up dead by the Chicago Police Department. Okay, so it came.
Bobby Seals too, right?
No, Bobby Seals, Bobby Hutton. Bobby Hutton got shot.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Bobby Seals is still around. He's still alive.
Right.
And so it came under a lot of forces, It basically just drained a lot of people, I think, and over time.
Ran out of sources, ran out of gas,
just ran out, because like I said, the Black Panther Party was no well-funded organization. It was a grassroots organization.
So you guys just began to mobilize.
Yeah. Okay. And, but like you said now, remnants of the Black Panther Party still exist, but not necessarily like as Black Panther Party. But the mentality of the Black Panther Party in a lot of ways still exists.
What was the mentality? That's where I wanted to go, because once we understand the mentality, we understand the fight against. You know what I'm saying? So what was you guys' mentality, and then what was the portrayal of your mentality? Because I know to be the most dangerous organization in America, there has to be some things that are believed about the Black Panther Party versus what it actually stood for?
Well, I think that one of the things, like I keep harping back to, one of the things that the Black Panther Party was such a threat to the United States was, Edgar thought it was a big threat, was that it was organizing, it was mobilizing, it was moving young black men and women in a positive direction. Mm-hmm. It was bringing children up in a certain way.
Reading programs and
yes,
tutoring and stuff like that.
And a certain ideology was being set in these individuals' minds, which J. Edgar Hoover felt, hey, I can't let it go. And so, but some of the ideas are still there. Like I said, I believe in being armed for self-defense.
Absolutely.
And that was the principle of the Black Panther Party. I believe in being armed for self-defense. And I'm sorry, black liberals, but I do. And so that's still within me. Mm-hmm. And I would go to my grave with that, mm-hmm. you know. And so it's all, you know, it's that you have to try to do for self in many ways, which is also a concept of the Nation of Islam, doing for self. And so that as black folks, we got to start moving and doing some things for ourselves, you know. And it does
like what? For example,
okay,
banking.
Okay,
right?
Yes.
I didn't really learn about how money works until I started having trouble in business. Mm-hmm. But those are concepts that we get when we get into stuff. But it sounds like Black Panther Party had a structure to teach self-sufficient concepts, mm-hmm. and that was what was so scary about them. Not the guns, it was the thought.
It was the thought.
That's what I'm asking.
It was the thought. Like, you know, like you spoke to me, I speak a lot about nutrition, mm-hmm. I speak a lot about fitness. Okay, I do that because that's the way I bring about a change within the black community, but also in the community of America at large. Okay, because as many people want to say they are involved in the movement, they call themselves warriors. They want to do something now. A lot of people want to do something now. Mm-hmm. But if you're constantly ill and sick, you are not going to be a strong warrior. You know, you're not going to be a very fit person. So it's very important for Americans in general, which is United States is the sickest society in the world. I'm not talking about mentally, I'm talking about physically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the most sickest society in the world. It's very important for black people in general to become more physically fit, like your thing, mm-hmm. to eat healthier, more, you know, foods, fruits and vegetables, and water and things like that. If you're gonna call yourself a warrior, you gotta treat your body like you're in a war.
How do we, Barney, and I'm asking you because you're giving me a whole bunch of stuff to think about. How do we, knowing what we know, like what you're giving is actual informational, factual situations. So you gotta open your mind to be self-sufficient and then be willing to take care of your body so you can keep clarity in your mind. Why is that such a difficult task to try to get people to even embrace that concept? Why do you think that is? I have my own ideas of why that is, but why do you think that is?
It's a tough sacrifice for a lot of people. A lot of people have been taught certain things and they have certain beliefs, mm-hmm. even though they mean well. Mm-hmm. They don't see their body as the embodiment of what's going to take you there. Mm-hmm. You know, if I say I'm going to fight against racism, it's hard for me to fight against racism, and I mean no disrespect to anyone now when I say this. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to fight against racism if I'm sick.
Right.
It's hard for me to fight against racism if I can't walk a block, you know, or if my body weight is 500 pounds or 300 some pounds. And, you know, it's hard for me to say I can do anything, even though you mean well, you want to do something. And so And like I said, Greg, we are at war against white supremacy and racism. And just like any warrior or any military, any soldier, your body is very important to you.
I think,
Your body is what you have to fight this.
yes, absolutely.
And I'm not necessarily talking about physically. I'm
Right.
talking about if you're going to fight it in any type of way. If you're going to fight to build businesses in your community, to be more politically as far as voting, whatever, you got to be active. You got to be physically active, and that's going to take a physically fit body, a healthy body. You know.
I think the fight is different. I think white supremacy and racism are like the trunk and the branches. I really do. I think the fight is for justice, just like the Black Panthers was fighting for. You were fighting against the police because of the injustice. And I think the white supremacy, it starts to fade because they are the enforcers of injustice. And then, you know, it's the racists. I said this yesterday. Racists are racist. Like, you will not change a racist. Like, if somebody hates me because I'm black, it's hard for me to convince him to treat me decently, and I'm still black. However, if there are consequences for his actions, if he does something because he hates me because I'm black, he'll hesitate. And I really, truly believe that we'll get more people in understanding of exactly what you're saying about the party and its real purpose if we say we're fighting against injustice or we're fighting for justice for black people because they are getting gunned down by officers of the law. And that way we fight to change the laws so these officers change. You see what I'm saying? And I'm basically piggybacking on what you're saying, but you had to live in that racist situation. Well, there's a lot of white friends out there that are truly not racist. Like,
Oh, very much so. I
but
agree.
they're being treated as they are racist
No.
because it's that overarching idea of we have to be one way or the other. You know, does that make sense? It's almost like fitness and nutrition. It's like if apples keep you healthy, all apples ain't gonna make everybody feel better. Some people might be allergic. You
Okay,
know?
so help me out here. You're saying racism,
It's a byproduct of injustice.
how so?
Because if you can't change a racist, like Bull Connor was gonna be Bull Connor. But let's say the laws didn't allow Bull Connor to be sheriff, then he's just a white racist guy. It doesn't really affect. We ain't all getting shot down with water hoses because that's the injustice. You know, if we fight for justice, we remove the racism and we get the right people fighting with us. Because I've had white friends say it just feels so terrible for people to just call me a racist because of the color of my skin. And then I say, well, it feels even worse to be called a threat by the authorities because of the colors of my skin. And then they'll come back and change the words and say, well, not everybody views you as a threat. So then I say, I know. So let me be extremely specific in what I just said the same way. When the authorities who are designed to serve and protect are taking my life, that is injustice because cops are black, cops are white, but they're killing black males. And then the racists, because they have consequences, they hesitate or they stop or they don't get hired because the laws have changed. Because you can't keep a racist. Like, it's not like, you know, I hate black people today and then I had an epiphany. It's not like from Saul to Paul. You know, it's in the Bible. Like, it is what it is. Grace, you got a question?
No, Jasmine just put something to the same extent. She put laws get things done before hearts change.
Right.
And
Exactly what I said yesterday.
I don't know if he's your nephew or you're related to him.
Right.
Tian person said everything starts with knowledge of self. I totally agree. That's why I live day to day.
That's my nephew. and that's true, you know, because I always say that knowledge is the end, is a means to the end, and the end is power. But just getting back to what you're saying, Greg, I think that it's not all, the police is not only the problem.
Right.
That's not only the problem. I mean, you have a multitude of problems. You have racists in the police department, in the military, in sports, in business, in education. It's this whole ideology that we're up against. And so, and we must understand how what the ideology come about and why it's manifested itself. Just like I was listening to Jasmine last night, and she was talking about she's finding resistance from her students in China. Now, how is she finding resistance from her students in China?
It's rooted deep.
How is it rooted so deep? And because I mean, it's an ideology that has been spread around the world, and that's why I tell people it's just not our little struggle here.
Right.
You know, black people around the world facing the same thing that we're facing, all around the world.
I have a thought on why it exists like that, man. What you're saying makes so much sense. It's because of the way we were taught. You keep saying something that I don't know how to ask the question I want to ask. So, knowledge of self. Knowledge of self is the most important thing. But when did you learn that black people were things other than slaves while in school?
Well, the thing is I noticed you said something the other day about you didn't know about it until you was 18 years old.
Right.
and I kind of laughed, and I'm not laughing.
I know what you mean, because I thought it was interesting too.
Yeah.
Now I want to clarify that. I knew things was my great uncle and my dad, but I didn't learn, like school didn't teach me anything other than us being slaves.
Right. And that's all you can expect that the school's going to teach you.
Right.
If your school is being taught by someone other than you, and so you can't expect anything else.
So how do I ask the question of how do we get knowledge of self?
That is something that's kind of hard to explain, but I think that's why I say that education and knowledge just don't start after you get out of high school, after you get your bachelor's, after you get your master's, after you get your PhD. It's a continual process. It's a continual learning process. For instance, racism, I should have said, racism wasn't the cause of slavery. And I know Jasmine don't like to hear this, but I'm going to go back a little bit, Jasmine. Racism wasn't the cause of slavery.
Right.
Slavery was the cause of racism.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm going to go back even a little further because, see, prior to, in 1661, there was something that codified slavery. Prior to 1661, indentured whites and enslaved Africans were pretty much on the same level.
Explain indentured whites or indentured servants. A lot of people might not know.
Indentured servants, I should say, actually.
But you're right. They were white.
They were mostly white, yeah. They were on the same level as pretty much as the enslaved Africans. Okay. In other words, they could kind of, you know, they were tied to this master, both tied to a master, but they could kind of work their way out of it over a period of time.
They were there because they owed a debt and they had to work off the debt.
Yeah, and it wasn't generational. It's like if I was an indentured servant or I was an enslaved African, my child wasn't necessarily an indentured servant or enslaved African. What happened was that the indentured servants and the enslaved Africans were starting to come together because pretty much economically they had the same economic interests. We're both being pissed off by the elite, more so the plantation owners and so forth. Well, in 1661, in Barbados, the plantation owners started to fear the unity that was taking place between the indentured servants and the enslaved Africans. And they came up with this concept called the slave codes. the slave codes basically was codified what slavery was all about. At that time, it said that basically that enslaved Africans were property, no longer humans. They are property. That the master, or the owner of these enslaved Africans could do whatever they wanted to with you or me, whatever they wanted to.
That's why it was never called human trafficking.
Yeah, they could, if they wanted to whip us, they could. If they wanted to kill us, they could. There was no justice for their actions, like you keep talking about. At the same time, the indentured servants was now given a different position. They could become overseers. They could be on the slave patrol now. They could be on the patrol to look for runaway slaves. And so their position changed a little bit. They became, on the social caste, they became just a little bit higher. And you see it today. That's a little bit higher because they are white.
They were middle management.
Well, they're more than middle management. They were white.
Yeah.
Because they were better because the slave now was classified as nothing.
Property.
It's subhuman, as not being human. Now, this was in 1661. Barbados at that time was an English colony. Okay? England during that time was starting to go all over the world. Okay? So this ideology, they were taking all over the world. As a consequence of that, also now we have the African continent being portrayed as a dark, savage, primitive continent. Okay. And so these codes continue. Okay, in 1705, they had the Virginia slave codes. New York even had slave codes. And so all this stuff.
And code is just another name for law. Or
yeah, a law. Basically, a law. And so you have all this stuff that just been passed down, going on and on and on. And so right now, you talk about justice. There was no justice for a slave.
Right.
There was no justice for a slave.
So this is rooted deeply mentally, because a word I keep hearing over the past 45 days is should. It should be like this. You should be doing this. If the police stop you, you should have to be able, like, we don't live, black people don't live in a should universe.
No.
We live in a is universe. And that's what I keep saying. Like, I keep asking people, if you want to know some truth, just ask. Ask people you know. Don't listen to people you don't know who don't have the same interest as you. Ask people you know. So I want to go back to this. Barnett, you were an active member of the Panther Party, right? So, knowledge of self. How did they help you in that space to grow as independently educational and understanding as you are today? Because I know that was a serious influence.
Well, I think, Greg, I can't just say it was the Black Panther Party. I can never just say it's the Black Panther Party. It was an evolution. It was an evolution from my birth in Montgomery, Alabama, up until today here in Fort Worth, Texas. It wasn't just something that just came about out of, a couple of years of being involved. Yeah, it was like, okay, from what I seen as a young man as a young boy in Alabama, as a teenager and young boy in San Diego, on and on and on. It was influence of a lot of different things. Some well-known people and not so well-known people. Some well-known events and not so well-known events. Knowledge of self is something that came in, I think, as evolution. As I grew as a man, so did my knowledge of self. I'm still evolving as a man. I'm still evolving into a knowledge of self. It's not something that ever stops. So I can't just say, well, the Panthers did this, or so and so did this. Yeah, they had some influence on it, but it was just a continual process. And just like the young man Tion was saying, knowledge of self is a continual thing. You know, it's continual. You continue to grow into yourself. This young lady continues to grow into knowledge of herself. It's not going to be just a okay, I'm in the Black Panther Party now, so I'm knowledge.
That's what I'm at.
Yeah,
How
I know it all.
Yeah, like, how did you take that approach? Yeah.
No. It was an evolution, you know, and it was many different events, many different people. My grandmother, rest in peace, my mom, my dad, all my relatives, the neighborhoods I lived in, you know, the people I grew up in, all played an influence.
But you stood on that value of morality, and that's how you that's how you continue to find out who you are.
Yes, and not only the value of morality, but respecting everyone. I don't care who you are. Respecting every man and woman. I don't matter what color, whether you are a known racist or not. I still respect you until you show me differently. You know. Now, if you come at me, yeah, we're gonna have to go down. But it's not like I'm gonna come out and just disrespect you.
You respect the gun line. You respect the gate line. I don't care what you got on the other side. We can coexist as long as you keep that
right.
factor.
My knowledge of self is that really, I don't hate no one. I do not hate anyone.
How can you not hate white people? And that's a serious question for everybody out there.
Why should I hate white people?
Why shouldn't you?
I have no reason to hate white people.
That's the same thing my daddy said.
I have no reason to hate white people. They, you know, I know myself. Like that's what I said. I know myself. You know, I know, like they like to say, a bad apple. You know, and so if you go, the thing about, if you're a bad apple, as they like to call these, you know, some people a bad apple. Well, you know, I can detect that, but you know, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt until you show me differently. Now, I don't mean that I'm a naive sucker that walk around out here. I'm not a naive about anything. You know, I grew up in different parts of the world, different parts of the United States. I've been all over the world, so I know I have to be on guard against a lot of stuff.
So I gotta ask you this. How is it so comfortable for you to give the benefit of the doubt when you know in some situations you are not going to get the benefit of the doubt?
Well, when I say the benefit of the doubt, I mean that I'm not going to go up to, oh, well, yeah, he's white, and I'm not going to like him, or she's white, I'm not going to like him.
So you're not going to prejudge the situation?
Oh, no, I ain't going to prejudge anyone. You know, anyone that knows me know that, hey, I'm an upright person, I think. And because I do have a knowledge of myself in certain ways, I have no need to hate anyone. Now, if you cross me or cross my family or cross my people, then yes, there will be a fight, you know. And like I stand on that. You must be able to defend yourself by any means necessary. The black folks in the United States must be willing to defend themselves by any means necessary. And that's not necessary. We talk about violence or guns.
Knowledge of self, understanding the roadmap, any means.
Any means, politics, voting, protesting, whatever it takes, you know, to defend yourself. That's what it's all about. But I ain't gonna be one of these fools out here talking about, okay, black people should give up oh hell no, I'm not gonna give up my gun. You know, and I suggest all black people get armed and trained, you know, because that's just the reality of the situation. That's just
what
reality.
I mean. It's not a should, it's reality. What questions you got over there, Grace? Can we get a little bit more time?
Not really any questions, but more comments.
Okay.
Jasmine responded and said that she doesn't disagree that racism came as a result of slavery. She said rich folks created racism, so the mass of poor people of all colors were becoming a threat. It was a divisive tactic that still works today.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It was.
And that, she said racism started before that, though, with the Spanish Inquisition, I believe.
Yeah, I think she's speaking more to the Native Americans and their treatment of genocide by the Spanish Inquisition and so forth, you know, which is true. which is true, you know. Jasmine, everything. But just to piggyback on that real quick, why do you think poor white folks support a billionaire like Donald Trump?
This is what I think. I think because he does a good job not playing politics. If you really listen to what he's saying, he answers the question in a way that angry people answer questions. I'm going to change this. We're going to do that. We're going to be able to do this. I'm friends with all the black people. I love everybody. Women are this. Everything is great. And then the moment somebody comes at him with a direct question, you're so rude. Why would you ask that? You don't understand what I'm going through. Why are y'all attacking me? So at that moment, everybody understands who doesn't understand. He's winning a political game by not playing politics. And I don't care what anybody says, I listen intently. I do not dismiss what he says, because being dismissive eliminates the opportunity to point the finger. So if somebody's in a crowd of people and they threw a stick of dynamite, I want to be able to be like, it was him. But what he does is a good job. He sounds like them. And that battle cry is not one of politics. It's, I'm one of you guys. I'm going to make you just like me. I'm going to make sure you get those jobs you want. I'm going to keep all the criminals out because they're attacking you. They're attacking the good people. It's some real good people out there. It's some real wholesome people out there.
It makes them feel like they're the majority. It's the facade of power.
He's speaking to the indentured servants. He speaks to the indentured servants. But who does he work for?
He works for.
He's not working for the indentured servants.
He works for the plantation owners.
He works for the plantation owners. He had a fundraiser here in Dallas a couple of days ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forget how much it was to get into that. It was exorbitant amount of money. Do you think Joe Smith at the sawmill in Mississippi was at that fundraiser?
Couldn't afford it.
He couldn't afford it. But Joe Smith, because Donald Trump speaks to him, Joe Smith is going to vote for him. But Donald Trump worked for that very elite class.
That's why he gets away with saying some of the most racist, most misogynist things, and it's always like, well, he speaks his mind. And he may not be a good guy, but he's a good president. It's impossible to be a good president and not be a good guy. It's not possible. Like, you got to have some kind of morale. Now, there's some bad guys that were president.
Yeah.
But
he's one.
He's one.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a good person. Like, just based in his actions and his words. So with that being said, you're right. He's speaking to the indentured servants. He's giving them a chance to feel like they have a power source that they really don't. They're just like us.
They just like
supremacy
us.
Versus equality.
Right. But he speaks to them. Mm-hmm. And I mean, how can you speak to support? I mean, I know a lot of poor white folks who are unemployed.
$600K per couple to answer your question.
Oh, for the fundraiser?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, $600,000 per couple. You think Joe Smith in that sawmill from Mississippi could go to?
He's still trying to get that stimulus.
Hell no. But Joe Smith can put a vote, and as we can vote, and we vote for our candidates too. But the difference between getting a politician to do something for you is how you grease their pockets. Unfortunately, in this day and time, you have to be able to grease a politician's pocket to get anything done.
Opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they are. I mean, I can vote for you, but this young lady over here, if she's giving you $15,000, $20,000 for your next election or whatever it might be, and I done voted for you, and she done voted for you, and that gentleman there done voted for you, hey, who are you gonna work for?
That's why I don't like the term, let me say it the right way. That's why I don't like to overarch everybody as a racist. Because if somebody agrees with Donald Trump and they're not a racist, then all we did was create an empty argument instead of attacking the real problem. So I think playing that card early is unfair to the cause. And that's why I was saying what I was saying earlier. Because when we watched that officer of the law murder that man in the street, everybody saw a man get murdered and was like, that is wrong.
Right.
That's how we got to this point.
Right.
So now we're saying, all right, now that everybody can see, I can give you 45 encounters where that happened and 3 where that could have happened to me specifically. But when you say that, because Barnett, you got friends that know your name, I have friends that know my name, so we can't play the race card because it's not fair and it doesn't help the movement.
No.
But when we say Donald Trump's just racist, but somebody backs him, you just made them a racist. So now they can't be on your team, but they may have a mixed son.
Yeah. Yeah.
And their son could be under that knee too.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're confused and they're stuck, and now they really want to know what to do. If you want to know what to do, err on the side of morality. Remember that he said and done some things that your own mama tells you that stay away from people like that.
Yeah.
But I digress. I'm just making a point, and we can't be overarching in one issue. We have to pay attention to, like, I'm your friend. We live in the same neighborhood. We live in the same city. We're looking for the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What you got, Grace?
Eric went back to answering the question about why do you think poor white people listen and vote for Donald Trump, right? He said because Trump is the anti-politician. He's the opposite of every president we've had in the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
He talks in public like white people are scared to. He says things that white people only say in private. They believe he's fighting for the U.S., not the UN.
Mm-hmm. And,
wow.
Yeah, and Eric is absolutely correct because Trump speaks their language of some people. He can say it publicly, what they're thinking, but he's not working for them. I mean, you go up to West Virginia, the hills of West Virginia and Kentucky, and you see the condition of those people up there. And most people up in those areas are white folks. I mean, very, very poor white folks. But 99% of them are Trump supporters. Trump ain't did a damn thing for them, you know. But they like what he's saying, but he's not working for them. Matter of fact, he's working against them. He's working against all workers, but he speaks what they, like you said, what they're scared to hear. And we must not never forget that that indentured servant do not want to be classified as an indentured servant or a slave.
Because you're on the same page as black people.
Yeah, you're on the same level, you know, because hey, I'm white, I'm just above you, even though I'm poor as piss. I don't have a pot to pee in or window to throw it out in, but I'm not black.
So
I'm not Native American.
Black people and Hispanics. There's a lot of black people and Hispanics that support him.
Well, there's a lot of conservative blacks and a lot of conservative Hispanics.
Yeah.
They just are conservatives.
So
And that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
They're not really racist. I mean, they may have an economic interest in having Trump as president. You know, they are conservatives. I mean, they would vote for any conservative, and that's just them. I mean, I can't knock their political agenda. They are just conservatives.
And you saying that, and that's why I try to stay away from the race card unless it's necessary to play, because you just made a very, very valid point. I always say the thing with me and looking to a politician for answers is we're asking somebody to put on shoes that they don't understand how they fit.
Yeah.
I can't ask a person who doesn't really understand a day-to-day situation that I'm going through to assist me in that situation. I gotta ask you, I gotta ask the people around me. And then we collectively put the right people in the right places.
Right.
And that's why I keep saying racism is real as rain.
Right.
However, it's not the root. Just like you said, racism wasn't the root of slavery. You know what I'm saying? The economy was the basis of understanding slavery.
Right.
Now, all of my friends listening to this live there, and then we'll get to the part of justice. The second part is the Black Panther Party. What was the thing you pulled from it that you would want everybody in the world to know that it actually stood for? Like, what would be your battle cry to speak for the Black Panther Party? And then I want your last words, brother. They ain't gonna make us get out.
Okay. And I understand. And I thank you. But what I would like people to come out of, if they come out of anything about the Black Panther Party, is organization and mobilization. Okay? Organization and mobilization.
Shout out to Destiny Britton.
That's anything. Whether you're in a, black folks need to get organized. And when I say that, it means that, hey, it could be your fraternity, it could be your sorority, it could be your church, but get in some type of organization and make it move forward. Black Lives Matter is a great way people are being mobilized. You have to give them credit for that. They mobilize people. And I take that from the Black Panther Party. Organization and mobilization. On a lesser
get together and do something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just don't talk about it.
Get together, organize,
yes.
and then do something.
Right.
Mobilize.
And sometimes you got to put your money behind it. Okay. If you're gonna vote for a certain individual for office, be able to put some money behind it, because these politicians, they have to be greased for them to listen to you or do anything for you. I don't care if it's Barack Obama, Joe Biden, or Sergeant whoever on the local board. They work for the people who put money in their pocket. And so you have to realize Donald Trump worked for the people who put money in his pocket. Now he knows that the indentured servants will get him elected, but it's the people that paying that $600,000 that he's working for. And lastly, I would say, black folks, this is very important. Don't fear being a gun owner. Do not fear of being a gun owner. Arm yourself, get trained for self-defense. Okay? Take care of your body, get fit, stay healthy.
That's all knowledge of self.
That's it,
Defend
bro.
yourself, have pride in yourself, take care of yourself.
Take care of your body.
Great, so what you got before we get out of here?
I think Eric just put one more thing on here, and Brent. So I'll start with Brent. Brent said Trump played the Obama card to every white demographic that exists. I believe they carried the narrative of hate having a black man as a president, and those quote unquote poor white people hated it. Made it very easy for them to vote for him.
Yes.
And then Eric put, I grew up extremely poor in southeastern Oklahoma. I figured out really quickly that politicians on both sides couldn't have given two craps about any of us. That's why I'm a libertarian.
Even a libertarian, you got to put money in his pocket too.
Hey, we have had, this has been real enlightening, and usually I have something fly to say at the end, but I'm just going to piggyback off of what my man Barnett said. We have got to organize and mobilize. That means get together and do something. Hey, it's been a phenomenal episode. I have enjoyed every minute of it, brother. Gotta have you back.
Hey, man. It's been fun, brother. I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Man,
thank you
for coming. We'll see you guys next Monday on the next episode of Beyond the Know.